Take two. David, Daniel with the Wildlife Department.
Hello, Daniel. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I guess we're here today to talk a little about basically some questions a beginner angler may have for you. David, where's a new place for an angler to start, or a good place for someone to start?
I'd start off with like a spin cast combo. I think I got one right back here.
Okay.
Just a basic closed face spin cast reel is about the best thing for a beginner, a kid, or even an adult to use.
Okay.
I mean, these are the old Zebco 33s. They started in Oklahoma years ago. That's a very good way to start. I mean, it's very simple. It's all closed. Basically, you push the button, make your cast, click the reel, and reel it up. I mean, the only adjustment on it really is to put more or less drag, which a lot of people ask what the drag is. That's where you put tension on the line, so you can adjust it to where you can fight the fish, but your line won't break.
Yeah, it'll give a little give. So
just cast and retrieve. Very
now,
simple.
Somebody's been fishing for a while, and I've been using a spin cast, and I'm wanting to go to something else. What's the next option I might have?
When a person goes from a closed face spinning reel or spin cast reel, they'll go to a spinning reel, something similar to this one.
Okay.
It basically works the same way. It's just open. You've got your spool with your line on it. You take your finger, you grab the line with it, you open the bail, and you use your finger to release the cast. And then you close it and reel like this.
Yeah.
On this one, your only adjustment you really have is that your drag is up here. These are a little more complicated than this, but not much.
Okay.
I mean, it's very simple reel to use. You're controlling the line from the outside instead of inside with a closed face.
Yeah. Okay. And there is one more option that somebody has if they want to go a little more sophisticated.
You can go with the bait cast reel.
Okay.
With the bait cast reel, this is more for your bass fishermen primarily use this. Bass fishermen, cat fishermen, cat fishermen will use the round type, but the low profile reels have become very popular because they're very smooth, they're pretty easy to use. With this one, you adjust the reel to where the bait actually pulls the line off of that spool. That's why you want that spool. You want to adjust it to where when you throw your bait, the spool actually turns instead of where the spool's stationary. On this one, the spool turns. So you have to adjust it a little more. It takes a little more experience or a little more practice to get to throw it. But once you get to use this, you can use larger lines on a small reel. You can control your fish a little better, and it works great for throwing crankbait type baits, worm type baits, spinner baits, things like that. A little bit bigger baits, your bait cast type reel works a little better for those type baits.
Okay. David, thanks for showing these rods and reels to me. Why don't we move over to maybe what's the type of hook that somebody might start off with for a beginner that's maybe just using a simple worm to fish with? Can you show me that?
Let's go back here to the hook wall.
All right, David, so we're here where you got some hooks. Show me kind of what's a hook that the first hook someone might use if they're just wanting to use a basic worm to fish with.
Yeah. Most people usually start off, fishing with a bobber, fishing with worms, like a number 4 Aberdeen type hook is, there it is, it's a thin wire hook. They're small, so they fit in the fish's mouth. They're easy to get them out of their mouth too. Without really hurting the fish. You can actually catch and release all day long with a hook like that with no problem.
Okay. So what is something else like somebody might, if they're not wanting to do sunfish or perch or something like
that?
Well,
if they're cat fishing, bass fishing, we usually go to a bait holder. Anywhere from like a size 2 to a 1/0. And it's a little bit bigger hook. It's a little bit tougher hook. It's got little grips in there to kind of hold the bait on a little better. That's why they call it bait holders. But we sell a lot of the bait holder hooks to guys, especially bass fishermen and cat fishermen.
Okay. And I know there's such thing as treble hooks. So you got a treble hook here that someone might use to start off with?
Right here. A lot of guys fish punch baits, dough baits, things like that. A number 6 or a number 4 treble hook is a very good hook.
Okay.
Very good hook for that.
Is there any other type of specialty hooks that might be good for different type of species of fish?
When you get into especially bass fishing, there's tons of different hooks. There's, well, first of all, let's talk about a circle hook. We'll just go down through the aisle here. The circle hook is a weird oddball looking hook. They claim this hook will basically hook them themselves. A lot of cat fishermen use these using cut baits and some live baits, but the hook's got a real funny looking bend, almost like a circle with that point on it. So when the fish hits it, it just kind of rolls in their mouth and kind of hooks himself. All right, the kale hooks are very good for live bait. I've noticed a lot of the striper guides use a kale type hook down there. It's got a real weird bend to it with the sharp. They'll put they'll put their shad. A lot of guys use them for minnows, and it's a very good live bait hook. When you get into bass fishing, there's all kinds of hooks. There's probably the most popular is what they call an EWG offset worm hook.
And
they'll use that for
an artificial
yes,
worm.
for putting like plastic worms. It's got a funny looking bend so they can put the worm in there and make it weedless where they can drag it around
through
brush
vegetation.
and woods and vegetation without getting hung up.
Okay. All right, David, so we've talked a lot about the hooks, so I guess a weight might be the next thing someone's wanting to get a hold of. So let's go look at some
right
weights.
around the corner here.
All right. So David, we're here with the weights, and one of the rigs that we use for the aquatic education program is just a simple hook, weight, and a bobber, and we use a split shot weight. So show me some of the split shot weights you guys have.
Okay, here's one. Here's a little bit bigger one. We'll show you just a split shot weight. It's just a little round, and this is a removable split shot. It's got a slit in it where you actually put the line in it and crimp it, and you weight it to where it'll hold your bobber up. And then to remove it, you can actually squeeze on it and it'll open it back up to where you can reuse it again.
Okay.
So just a bullet weight. They come in any size from what they call a BB all the way up to about a size 7. It's about a quarter of an ounce.
Okay. So what's something, if I'm, probably use that to catch sunfish or perch or something like that. So what would I go to next?
Okay, probably the next popular style of weight is called a bass casting sinkers.
Okay.
These things go anywhere from an 1/8 ounce up through about 3/4, and they even go into they go into the bank sinkers and get up to about 8 ounces if you use a bank sinker. But it's just a little weight with an eye on it to where you can tie it on, and usually put it below, put your hooks up above, tie your lines out.
Okay. All right, and then we did talk about the hook that you'd use for like a artificial worm. So what's a weight you'd use if you're using that?
Most of your bass fish are going to use what they call a bullet weight. It's shaped a pointed weight. What it's made for, like when you're fishing with a worm, you can it's got a point on it. It's a weight with a point on it to where you can actually get that bait to go through vegetation, around wood, where it doesn't get hung up.
Well, that I think does a pretty good job covering the weights here. So why don't we kind of the next thing, maybe talk about bobbers or corks?
Sure.
So let's
right
go.
over here.
Let's go talk about those. All right, David. So we're here where you got your bobbers. Now show me. We use kind of just a typical plastic little round bobber, and you have some of those. So show me some of those, and then
a typical round bobber. Okay. Just a little round float. It's a spring float. It has a little hook on the bottom of it where you can actually throw your line in there, and you clip down, and it puts tension on it. Whatever depth you want your line at, you just set it right there, throw it out. You want to weight it to where it's about halfway on the water, and watch for, it's just a strike indicator. When the fish hits it, it'll usually go down or wobble or go down. Okay. The smaller they are, the more sensitive they're going to be. The bigger they are, the more buoyant they're going to be.
Okay. And is there a difference? I mean, they make them in a styrofoam too.
Oh yeah. They make a styrofoam version. Here's one that's it's basically the same thing, only it's a styrofoam. That one is actually a cigar, what they call a cigar shape.
Okay. And then there's also some what you referred to me as the pencil-shaped bobbers.
Yep, the pencil-shaped bobbers. Here's the pencil. These are balsa right here. And these are a little different. They're a long stick. They have a spring on them where you actually pull the spring back, and there's a little slit right there. You put your line in, and then you let it go, and it'll be right. Basically it's a stationary cork. So whatever depth you set, that's where it's going to be at.
How about we go over and talk about maybe some of the more advanced type lures and artificial stuff that people can get.
You bet.
Let's do that. Okay. All right, well, David, you've got some artificial lures here in front of us today, and maybe something that's a little more advanced that people want to try something. So tell me a little about these.
Probably a very popular bait for that is the crappie jig. These are actually hand-tied crappie jigs tied over grove, but it's just a lead head in a hook with a body shape. You get them in all kinds of colors. There's 14 million different color diagrams. But basically you tie them on, you drop them down, and you just kind of wiggle them You know, guys fishing out of fishing piers, boat docks. These are very popular.
Okay.
And when you get into the next thing, the Bobby Garland, the soft plastic stuff for the worm, for the crappie. That's what they call a baby shad. This one happens to be electric chicken. That's about the most popular color they sell. And they basically put it into a lead head, put it down, and fish it the same way this. It's just a soft plastic version of
that.
the hairdo.
Okay.
When you get into bass, there's probably the best selling and the most popular bait is a crankbait. A crankbait is basically a lure you tie on your line direct, you cast it, and you retrieve it. You throw it out. The bill will determine how deep it'll run. Like this is a middle runner. It'll run about 6 to 8 feet. And you throw it out, you reel it, and primarily for bass fishing. Bill, you can get them with long bills, short bills. The longer the bill, the deeper it'll go. The shorter the bill, the shallower it'll run.
Okay.
Another very popular hard bait in bass fishing is a popper, like this little popper. It's basically a floating bait. You tie it directly to your line, throw it out, and just kind of chug it and get it to move like an injured bait fish on top of the water.
Okay.
The spinner bait's very popular for fishing around structure, wood, around weeds, places where that will normally get hung up.
Yeah.
You throw a spinner bait. It's basically a lead head with a hook in it, with blades above it that actually turn in the water and kind of put vibration and flash out to mimic a bait fish in the water.
Okay.
Then of course these are soft plastics. A soft plastic worm is a very popular bait. They'll rig it with the hook we looked at earlier.
Yeah.
And basically rig it weedless where they can drag it through all kinds of brush and wood and weeds without getting hung up. Very popular bait.
Okay.
Mimics a snake or a worm in the water.
Yeah. And all this stuff comes in different sizes,
It
colors.
comes in different sizes, different colors. There's multitudes. Some people walk in and they're overwhelmed with the amount of colors and styles, but the basic, it's all basic.
Yeah. And you always probably recommend to people to try different, pick a different colors, pick a couple dark colors, light colors, try those things when you're fishing. So
usually stay with your basic colors, stay with your browns and your greens.
So
try to start off natural. If you got real dirty water like we have a lot of in Oklahoma, a lot of your bright colors like pinks and oranges and chartreuses work very good in those colors.
Okay.
So you just have to kind of go by the color of the water and what you're targeting.
David, I really appreciate your help today. You've been extremely helpful, and hopefully people have learned something and they're viewing this show, and if they want to get into fishing, get back into fishing, maybe this hopefully taught them something. Again, really thankful for your help today.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope we helped.
Oh, you did.
All
So
right.
thank you. You have a good day.